Hi, so this is BarCampGRBot, the why and the how. I'm Thomas Wodarek, and I already realized I used an old template for this presentation. Sorry, that's not my Twitter handle up on the right hand corner. I'm Thomas Wodarek. I'm one of the organizers this year. First, you can find me on Twitter, Thomas Wodarek. I'm on GitHub @2Derek. That's my first initial last name. I'm a software engineer in infrastructure at GitHub, and so I fiddle around with a lot of the things behind the scenes to make sure the website doesn't go down, so everybody else can collaborate. So this isn't much of a well-planned talk. So I'm going to cover the why, like why the bot and how the bot. So first, why the bot? This year, obviously this year's a little different. We're online. And normally we'd have a big white grid up on, just a big blank grid up on the wall. Anyone could walk up to it with a Sharpie and just put whatever they want on it. People, write your talk and who's giving it, and people will go to it if they want to. As you might expect, if you put the same thing up on the internet, someone's going to find it, and it's going to suddenly have a whole bunch of profanity scrawled all over it. So from there, it became a question of how can we confirm that a person is here at BarCamp without requiring anybody to create a separate account or have the super secret password or anything. So in discussions with our good friends at Cisco, the idea of a bot came up. So I decided I was going to write a bot. And I was going to try to make the bot as easy as I could to interact with as far as getting things set up. And we're finding out how well that worked today. So the bot is open sourced on GitHub, github.com/2Derek, TWODAREK /BarcampGR teams-bot. And I'll go ahead and put that into the room channel as well if people want to look at the code. It's written in Golang because that's what I use at work. So let's see. This bot is, I took inspiration from something we use at work. It's kind of when I say bot, I should step back. The bot is the identity that it carries within Cisco Teams. You can interact with it in a text-based way, and sort of acts like a bot, a pretty dumb bot. Let's be honest. You need to be pretty exacting with how you phrase things, or it's just not going to work. But that's just one of the things it does, or half of what it does. The other half is it actually also serves the talk grid. So talks.barcampgr.org is served out of that same binary. So from a practical perspective, it's a bot running on Azure, or it's a dual core machine running on Azure. It's nothing special. It's a Linux machine. It's got Nginx on it. I had thought I was running. At some point, I thought I was setting up the database to run in a a hosted MySQL something from Azure. I ended up just running the database locally on the same machine. But yeah, it's one tiny little Go binary. I wrap that Go binary up into a Docker container with some static HTTP files and deploy it on, like, I build the Docker image, put it up to Docker Hub, and then the server, the dual core VPS on Azure pulls down the image and updates and runs. And it turns out you can configure Nginx to do most of the do a lot of fancy things as far as like cleaning up HTTP. Right. For me, in this instance, all it's doing is terminating SSL and waiting up to 60 seconds for the bot to connect in the case that I'm restarting the bot for something. It only takes like a second to reboot, so Nginx can hold on to any request. Nginx is configured to wait up to 60 seconds with that request in hand. It doesn't need to because the bot or the binary goes down, comes back up real quick. And it'll just hold on to it until the bot is ready to respond to requests. So that's something I found out like during the opening session. So I added that real quick. I'm not sure, excuse me. The bot, as far as like how code is laid out, it's kind of a mess. I'll be honest. It takes a bunch of configuration in from the environment variables. It builds it into a command, or it builds it into a config object that I built, and then starts up a Webex Teams client. I found that the Webex Teams API actually has a really, really good amount of documentation. Let me, like, if you go into the API reference, you can pick one of these objects, let's say people. And then if I want to, let's see, if I'm going to sign in quick because this will show the power of the this type of dev, this sort of environment. You can actually tinker around with the API on the website, or like in the website. So say I wanted to look at, actually that's just a get. All right, sorry, I thought that was, let's say me. I can type right, and then I can hit run, and it gives back a JSON blob of the information on me. Status presenting, because I am presenting right now. I found a library that took most of the API already and wrapped it up in Go. So let's see. It is, oh right, I had to make a couple of modifications. If you want to look at the library, github.com/go-cisco-webex-teams, because I made 1 or 2 modifications from upstream. But otherwise, it has a bunch of, apologies, I am, all right, it's in the server file that's not open. It registers a bunch of HTTP endpoints, and those get passed through to handlers that clean it up a little bit, return some statuses based on how things are going, actually like builds out the file or builds out the object, the blob. In this case, this is the get scheduled JSON, so it's building the blob or the JSON object that gets returned out to the top grid, like the web front end, like talks.barcampgr.org. And so it's just spinning through here real quick and then spitting it back out to the front end as a JSON object. As far as things go, it was an interesting experience because like I've never really run a bot, wrote a bot before in this manner, like an actual like something you're supposed to communicate with, roughly bot. So like all the commands that you're typing, it's literally one big switch statement. So like if the first word is schedule, it looks for web, or if you had something else, if you say get, like you can do schedule talks grid to get like a link, get links. It returns all the links that are attached to your talks, and a bunch of other stuff like testing information, and it's all just sort of right here in this massive switch statement that is kind of unwieldy, but it works just enough to do the things I need it to do. Sounded like someone unmuted. Was there a question? Okay. Feel free to, I should mention, if anyone has any questions, feel free to throw them out in the chat, or I'm going to open it up to questions at the end as well. And yeah, as far as, I guess the biggest complication as far as like actually putting this together was, for the most part, if I, as the bot, wanted to receive a message, I needed to make sure that the bot was tagged. So like at BarCampGR.org, at BarCampGRBot. The reason you have to do that is because if you don't tag the bot, it doesn't get the message. I actually realized just now, or actually like in the previous session, that there's also a way to subscribe to Firehose, which is all of the messages. So I might tinker with that. No commitments on that at all. So yeah, it's written in Go. I apologize. I know most people in this area are Ruby or Python. I wrote it in Go because that's what we use at work. And it was really quick for me to just pick something off the shelf. I actually used a scaffold of the app. I actually used a scaffold from work, just sort of like a bare bones something to build out. You know, it had most of the stuff as far as like basic patterns for interacting with HTTP requests and stuff like that. And I should also mention, so one of the weird things I had to figure out was how to serve static content. I figured out a way to like give my binary like a directory of files and just sort of serve that out. Which I should mention, the front end. So the front end looks actually quite good, at least in my opinion, because I didn't write it. I'm a backend engineer. Like I write APIs and I interact with JSON blobs, and I don't do CSS or JavaScript or front or HTML. I can do those things. I just don't. Like I can. I don't enjoy it. And
it looks bad if he does.
Yeah, this is very true. That's my wife. She's the front end genius. And also, big shout out to Ed. Thank you for being patient with us and willing to help us build out the ability in the front end to actually be accessible to blind people, because turns out the way I was testing for accessibility wasn't how it was actually supposed to work. I tinkered with some tools, and like I'm a novice at all this, so I was like, it works. But you know, we found out a lot more with Ed poking around, and he helped us actually get it quite good. Or we were able to reach a point where he's actually able to navigate around the grid and get good context to know what's going on. So let's see. There is one question in the channel, or I guess suggest one change, which might have been nice, is just using @bot instead of such a long name. The problem is the names for bots are globally unique. As I had to register for a bot name, and that was going to be the name it was going to be in. It was going to be conversant at. So I didn't try really for a shorter name because it was a global namespace, but I'm fairly certain we wouldn't be able to do @bot because that's a different, that presumably is a different bot created somewhere else. Like there's a whole massive ecosystem of bots for Cisco Teams, and it's a global namespace, so I had to play in that. So it had to be somewhat specific.
And Thomas, I'll give you a bit of background on that is because the reason why you need to use that unique identifier is because of the end-to-end encryption and the way we do storage of your data and personal information in spaces. Your email address or the bot name becomes your core identity throughout the entire Teams ecosystem. And that's why that unique identifier plays such a critical role.
Yeah.
So would his, like if I were on another Webex Teams, then could I do @BarCampGRBot and I would be able to shoot commands to it from there also?
Yeah, you can add the bot to the space, and then because the bot, all the bots are uniquely available everywhere. It's like the identifier is uniquely available in the entire Webex system. So you can go in a third-party space and add the bot as well, and then let it do the commands. Or you can take its GitHub and modify it to suit the environment that you're in.
Yeah. As long as an admin adds the bot, any space within Cisco Teams would be able to access it. I'm fairly certain, I don't remember offhand, I'm pretty sure I'm filtering for only messages from this team. So if you were in a different Cisco org, or if you were in a different team somewhere else, the bot would receive the fact that a message was issued to it, but it would ignore it. Just as a way to sort of keep things in here. And actually, I had a sorry, I'm suddenly like in front of everybody else. How does my code work? There's a whole lot of like when I receive, as the chat bot, I receive the event that an event that the message has been issued to me, and that's the webhook I get from Cisco. Then I have to grab the ID out of that, get the message, and then I'm able to parse through it, like figure out who was the person that sent it to me, get information about the room. Like I put that together out here, and then jump into this massive switch statement. But yeah, sorry, back to the question. Yeah, it is. It would be globally accessible. There is another question. How do I cancel a talk? You were direct message. Yeah, there's the bot when you create a talk, the bot sends you a direct message link, and that link can be used to edit. Oh, hey, I'm not filtering it. Thanks for the bug report.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Yeah, the bot, when you finish, or when you create a talk, the bot sends you a direct message link. That link can be used to manage, i.e. edit or delete a talk based in it. And that link is unique. It has like a 64-character alphanumeric code on the end of it, and that's just to be able to uniquely reference your talk, as well as have the namespace be big enough to where someone couldn't just guess talk ID and get in there and mess around with things that aren't theirs. It was either that or figure out a way to like actually have people authenticate in the website, which was going to be significantly harder. I hadn't tested at all if Webex has like an OAuth setup that I could use or anything like that. And I was really, really, really trying to avoid making people create an account just so they could register a talk, like create a separate account outside of Webex. I guess that's my rambling. Yeah. If anyone has any other questions, feel free to unmute and throw them out or put them out in the channel. We've got
Question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, this is Ed, by the way, and
Hey.
thanks a lot for all your help on accessibility. And Lydia, if you're hearing me, thank you. But I wanted to ask a question. I downloaded or cloned the GitHub repo, and so I've never done any Go programming in my life. I know how to use in Rust. I would say something like cargo build, right, or cargo run, or something like that. Is there some kind of command like that at the top level directory that I can run to get it? Assuming I've installed Go, of course.
You can do Go build, and that'll build it into a binary, or you can do Docker build because it's a Docker container, and it'll package it up into like a runnable instance. I think.
I'd rather do that anyway. Yeah, but okay.
Like I tag it. I do Docker build --t, and then I specify the tag. So in this case, thomaslow/BarcampGR-team/bot, and then I actually push it up to Docker Hub. When I usually build it locally. Whenever there's a push to master, GitHub also builds it as part of an action. But yeah, if you do Docker build, you can build it and run it locally. It does depend on some local environment variables. If you look in the main.go file, lines 24 through 37 are the configurations. I don't have them well documented yet. But yeah, that's sort of how it's structured. So if you do want to run it, you can actually do either Go build or Go run. Go run, instead of compiling it, interprets it live, and then you can interact with it locally as well.
How would you interact with it locally? Would you have to send curl commands to it or something, or?
Yes, pretty much. To get webhooks from Cisco, you have to actually call the API and say, this is, give them like a URL, and this is where you can find me as this bot for these events. So right now it's got a couple of webhooks like talks.barcampgr.org/API/via1/messages. It's got a couple of endpoints like that where Cisco is actually making API calls out to me to send me things. So if you wanted to interact with it locally, you would have to do curl commands against the local API.
Right, that's what I was asking of the local API.
Yep, sure.
You wouldn't want to, you test it while you're connected to Cisco, I guess. Okay, all right, thank you.
I did, but that's because no one was using it at the time.
Right. Okay, well, cool, because I've never done Go before, so I want to learn about it, how to compile it at least.
Fair warning, it is a little messy. It's not a great example of Go, but like, I hope it's at least followable.
Thanks.
All right, if anybody has any more questions, otherwise it looks like Kyle Adams has a talk, Tools of the Trade. here in about 2 minutes. If people want to have more questions of me about how this works, how to interact with it, why I did the crazy things I did, you can find me. Let's see, I will be in the general channel. Just feel free to throw something out there. And yeah, thanks for coming to my talk.